Well, Victorian business leaders say they may be forced to take their companies out of the state because of rising gas bills and a potential energy shortage. Gas is being phased out of Victorian households, but Victoria's Energy Minister this week conceded that the state needed new gas supplies to help bridge the gap.
Victoria's approach is also at odds with the federal government's future gas strategy, which has gas playing a key role in Australia's energy mix beyond 2050. Paul Guerra is the Chief Executive of the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins us now. Thank you so much for your time this morning. First of all, what's your understanding of this looming gas shortfall in Victoria and the potential impacts on businesses there?
Good morning to you both, Kath and Joe. Look, it's very clear. AEMO's come out not too long ago and said Victoria will be out of the current gas reserves within 4 years. So that's by 2028. Victoria will be out of gas. So what business is saying now is if there's no available gas readily available so that business can keep doing what they're doing, they'll have to look at options. And those options are either move interstate or, worse still, move offshore. So we really need action now. Without gas, we can't do manufacturing. And in many cases, cooking and heating isn't there. Of course, we're also looming an energy crisis as well from the electricity side, with the coal power stations scheduled to shut down as well. So, Victoria needs a plan to give business the confidence that it continue to operate within Victoria.
When you say they'll be forced out, what sort of time frame are you thinking?
Well, there's still time to rectify it, Joe, at this point in time, because we know 4 years we will be out of gas. So the state has options. They can either bring more gas in via pipe down from Queensland. You can bring it in via LNG and probably into the Geelong terminal there, and both of those would require storage options. Or we can go and look for more gas. We know there's reserves around. Doubtful they're as plentiful as what the current ones have been, but probably a combination of that. We're all on a journey to net zero, and businesses behind that as well. But to get through that transition, gas is going to be required before we move into a renewable environment, which probably means hydrogen plays a part in that.
You mentioned net zero. Do you see Australia's commitment to reaching net zero by 2050 as being at odds with what business requires when it comes to its energy needs?
No, I think business is committed to get to the net zero environment, but there's nervousness around how we get there. We don't want to be shortchanged in terms of the availability of gas or electricity, and we need to understand the cost that that's going to be. We know there will be an uplift. It's a question of who pays and over what time frame is that going to be paid. Business needs to stay competitive. We know rising costs in energy have made businesses less competitive than what they have been, and certainly profits have been impacted, and the cost of doing business has been impacted in that as well. So business is committing to get to net zero. We want to look at every option available to get there, and obviously the cost plays a part in that. But it's the certainty of energy, the reliability of energy, and the cost of energy that business is going to factor in.
This week, the New South Wales government extended the life of one of the country's biggest coal-fired power stations by 2 years. What's your response to that? And do you expect there to be a bit of a bumpy road until Australia reaches that net zero target?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're seeing this play out around the rest of the world as well. I think the targets there are really useful in terms of guiding thinking and guiding technology to get there, but it'll be in the practicality that the issues will arise. So, we think giving business and, in fact, households the certainty that, the lights are going to stay on, the energy's going to be there, and we can still heat and cook. And then from a company perspective, a business perspective, that we can continue to manufacture, that's going to be important. So we're going to go through 2 phases here, where we start to see the traditional energy, coal-powered and natural gas, being replaced by renewable sources in the type of gas. That's probably hydrogen, whether it's blue or green remains to be seen. And then in electricity, it's probably around wind and solar, as well as a few other things mixed in there as well. So what we want to do is get to the net zero environment with the certainty that energy is going to be there. So the traditional methods will be phased out as the new energy types, the renewable energy types, come online. We think that's a sensible role.
On a federal level, we've got the Future Made in Australia policy to help businesses who are making things here. How can that be done successfully when energy on a state and a federal level is facing all these challenges?
Yeah, and that's the question that business is confronting right now. We want to continue to manufacture. We want to continue to have strong business within Australia itself. But part of that relies on our energy future. We think it's time now for the whole energy discussion to look at, particularly in a Victorian perspective, down the eastern seaboard. We know Queensland, for example, has got abundant reserves. Victoria doesn't, New South Wales doesn't. How does the eastern seaboard play into each other so that there's energy security around that eastern seaboard for gas? And then as renewables come online, how do we then use that so that the energy is shared up and down the eastern seaboard as well? Without consistency and without certainty of energy, business will make decisions around where they locate. And as we know, money has choices. It'll find the best possible location for it to get the return that it needs. That has to remain Australia. And as a proud Victorian, that has to remain in Victoria.